Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and in today's episode, I'm talking with Dr. Elizabeth Wanek, who has a chemistry degree, a medical doctorate, and decades of medical practice, and who has this gift of connecting physics, chemistry, and biology, and explaining how the body works and how the different foods you eat can either stop cravings or feed cravings. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at aftersugarclub.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at aftersugarclub.com. And also, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration, so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. All right, let's get to my chat with Elizabeth. All right, so today I'm talking with Dr. Elizabeth Wanek. And can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what your relationship was with food and sugar?
So I grew up in a really small town in northwestern Nebraska, and finished high school and then went on to an undergraduate degree in chemistry. Chemistry was actually my favorite subject, organic chemistry, the most favorite, because I remember my teacher bringing in these 3-dimensional stick pieces where he showed how carbon and hydrogen and oxygen got put together to make something. And I think that was just something that resonated with me because I like to build things. I never really liked to memorize things because I never quite understood the rationale behind all this. So having a more logical way to get from A, start with carbon and then hydrogen and oxygen and build a sugar molecule, which is C6, 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens, then was the foundation for going on into medical school. And then from medical school, I got training as a general surgeon and furthered my education as a pediatric surgeon. And I was in a pediatric surgical practice for almost 9 years in North Carolina. And about the same time that I was studying for my surgical boards, I was introduced to a book called Enter the Zone, which was written by a PhD biochemist by the name of Barry Sears. And I was studying for my surgical boards and learning about, not learning, but the way I was taking care of patients on ventilators or taking care of patients who couldn't eat for themselves, whether it was by IV or by a tube that went into the stomach, it was biochemistry. I thought it was just about my patients
Uh-huh.
and that it wasn't about me.
Mm.
Because in medical school, we don't learn that this really has any application to us students as people. It's all about taking care of patients. And
Right.
as I read the book, I thought, wow, I mean, this is this is just totally what I'm learning. And so I'm going to apply it in my own life.
Wow.
And once I started doing that, my life changed. I had no idea. I had no clue. I was about 40 years old at the time. I had no clue that anything I was eating had anything to do with how I worked. I just thought that by sheer willpower, I was doing things. I choose to do something and I do it. And, whether I was angry or sad or happy or glad or sleeping or exercising or whatever it was just me doing what I wanted to do and could do and not related in any way to the work I was doing to make this happen or even the interface between food and how I was working. And I look back on it, certainly medical school and then training every 3 nights on call, up for 24 hours. And then literally, I remember my body burning, literally kind of being on fire for that day after the 24 hours
Uh-huh.
until I finally got home 12 hours, 14, 16 hours later. And I would just fall asleep, dead tired, and then get up and do that whole cycle for the next 3 days. And I
Right.
was tired a lot.
Yeah.
I was hungry a lot. And I was angry a lot. And I just wasn't happy. And when I learned about the biochemistry of food as it related to me, and ultimately creating something called euglycemia. And what does that mean? It's a term that means a blood sugar that's just right, not too high and not too low.
Mm-hmm.
And that blood sugar, blood glucose, is what is the raw material or known as the fuel that actually is burned. Sugar is an organic fuel that is burned to create something called ATP, which is used as an energy carrier in the cell.
Mm-hmm.
But that energy carrier is actually separate from what generates energy in the cell. And it's confusing in today's day and time because that distinction isn't always made.
Yeah. And we don't all
So
have degrees in biochemistry to even understand what you just said.
right, and as I tell my patients, and really in order to be optimally healthy or approaching it, a person really has to understand at least some chemistry. And that's kind of what I want to do is help teach people some basic chemistry so they can work in their lives a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So as I started eating differently and felt much better, I had more energy. I could get more things done in a shorter period of time. I had a more balanced outlook on life and just got a lot more done. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, part of all that anger and that and fatigue and all that was doing what I was told to do by someone else, exercising a lot. And yeah, I remember what I ate. I was drinking orange juice for breakfast and a bagel. That was my breakfast usually. And then I would usually be having a salad for lunch, but then usually some sort of um, well, usually a protein, but not always. Something like bread, beans, and rice was a big thing, and bread for dinner. And it was fueling my exercise, but it wasn't really, when I look back on it now, knowing what I know now, it wasn't serving me in terms of having a balanced function.
Yeah.
So I went on from my surgical background into training in something called functional medicine, which some of your listeners may be familiar with, as as it's said at the time, getting to the root cause of disease, which was inflammation. But that always kind of bothered me because, well, what causes inflammation?
Mm-hmm.
What does that really mean? It was always kind of in the context that there's something wrong with the immune system, and taken from the context of the standard immune response reaction, which as surgeons we all already knew, calor, which is heat, rubor, which is pain, or rubor, which is dullness, calor, I already said that, it was just heat, um, uh, calor, rubor, tumor, swelling, can't even think of the other one right now. But anyway, the inflammation is taken in the context of something wrong with the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, inflammation means inflames. And inflames comes from burning calories. That's the root cause of inflammation. Now, we have to burn calories to get the raw materials that we need to make new cells. The reason you and I are talking here today is because our body has made new red cells, new platelets, new liver cells, new spleen cells, new bone cells, new brain cells on a regular basis. But we've had to take in food, which supplies the raw materials to make those things. But in the process of taking in that food, we have created inflammation. We are burning calories to process food. And not only are we burning calories to process food, but we burn calories to run, to walk, to talk, to think, to eat, to shop, to
Yeah.
sleep. Whatever we do is burning calories.
Yeah.
And
And
the
can I just,
counterbalance, so go
uh,
ahead.
so I just wanted to ask you whether the word burn in biochemistry is actually what happens. Is there heat generated?
Heat is generated as a byproduct. So the temperature, the 98.6 temperature that we feel as warm-blooded animals, is a byproduct of the burn of calories. Yes. So
Okay.
literally there is heat being produced, and in um, uh, Eastern medicine and Chinese medicine, literally the element that burns the fire is called the wood element of the body, and
Hmm.
that's primarily the liver. And so, yes, burning generates heat. And what does heat do to organic matter? We are made of wood. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, the primary elements, and that's organic matter. And what does heat do to organic matter? It dries it. First of all, it burns it. And then second of all, it dries it out. So dis-ease is related to drying out of the very tissues, the very cells that we need to have work. And when those cells dry out, meaning lose their water, because the water is the counterbalance to the heat, water has to be present in the cells for the cells to work. And it's different from what typically people think of when they hear the word hydration.
Hmm.
Hydration means getting water into the blood. It doesn't mean getting water into the cells. They're two different things.
Whoa. Whoa. It sounds like a lot of technical stuff that, I mean, I'm aware of most of it because I've read a lot, but sort of
Right.
regular people who don't have your science background and specifically biochemistry background,
Right.
it sounds like what we eat doesn't do what we think it does.
That's exactly right. Yes. Food does not provide energy to the body. Food provides raw materials that the body will then break up into pieces and then reassemble to make hair and skin and nails, etc. So that's a huge understanding that you just brought forth. Food
Okay.
doesn't do what we have been led to believe that it does.
Right.
Food
And
is not an energy source.
gotcha. Food is not an energy source. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Correct.
And
Yes.
what the messages that we have received include the fact, or it's not a fact, include that sugar is a source of energy. And not only that, that it's a good source of energy, which I personally don't agree with from personal
Right.
experience.
Yes, and here we have to make a distinction between glucose as the fuel that's being burned in the mitochondria to make ATP versus the disaccharides or the polysaccharides of complex sugars, carbohydrates, meaning carbon with water, or disaccharides, which is two sugars put together, like lactose or like table sugar, or even honey is two sugars put together. And what the cells have to do to extract glucose is to burn the complex sugars and make them into a usable structure called glucose. And so even that is confusing to people because if a person isn't eating in such a way that this fuel that has to be there and present in the mitochondria to make ATP, then the brain, because it's not really that capable of fine-tuning decisions, it's going to get the body to the things that are going to produce the glucose the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the things that are soft and easy to chew, that melt in the mouth, and that are liquid, and that are the liquid forms of sugars, the polysaccharides or the disaccharides that are going to be converted into glucose.
Okay. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. Now, you were saying that it's like the body is made out of wood. I realized that's an analogy, but I remember hearing, I don't know if it was Dr. Jason Fung, but making this analogy of sugar, if we're going to be talking about fires and wood, sugar being like twigs and paper to get a fire going really fast, but that dies out fast. In other words, quick source of energy, but not long lasting. And then proteins and good fats being kind of like hardwood logs that will keep the fire burning long term. Does that sound accurate?
Yes, the way I see it and think about it is there are specific nutrients that the body needs on a regular basis. It has nutrient needs for carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And each one of those categories fills a specific hole in how they're presented to the body, presented and then processed in the body and presented into the blood. That's something called glycemic index, if you've heard of that or know about that.
Yes.
So the carbohydrate calories that we eat are going to be digested and processed and put into the highway within the first 2 hours. They're the more instant energy source. And even within that category, the things that, like I said, that melt in your mouth get you quicker than broccoli, which is a carbohydrate, but it has fiber in it and it takes longer to get into the body.
Yes.
The proteins, which we absolutely have to have to not only structure our muscles, but to structure what I call the machinery in the factory floors. Those proteins are required in specific amounts to then be used to continue to operate the machinery, to rebuild it, to rehab it, to get it out if it's necessary, and to make new machines. The proteins that we eat take 2 to 4 hours to arrive in our bloodstream, either as amino acids that are going to be used to make new machines or to work on the machines and repair them, or then be used also as glucose, because protein can be turned into glucose if it's necessary for that to happen to keep the mitochondria running. Then the fat that we eat takes longer. It has to go through a different process to be digested and then delivered into the bloodstream. That process takes 4 to 6 hours. So yes, within the way the design of the body happens, then there are three essential nutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and they are delivered and processed in different ways. So to protect the function of the body and be efficient, I call it interstate highway traffic. I think everybody can relate to this.
Yeah.
That interstate highway traffic gets much better gas mileage than if you're stop and go in town traffic.
Gotcha.
And this is where I was talking about for a person to be optimally healthy does require a basic understanding of these principles.
Yeah.
That in order to meet the nutrient needs optimally, which is also then controlling and directing everything about who we are, how we think, how we feel, what we're going to crave, what our weight's going to be, how easy it is to either take on food or burn fat or do these things, is all determined by the signals that are set up by how the gasoline gets into our highway.
Yeah. The
And
gasoline being glucose.
being the glucose, yes, that's either created from the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats we eat, and how the food we have eaten is used by the cells to make the glucose most stable.
So it's like the stability of your glucose level and the speed at which whatever we eat is turned into glucose. That's what counts. Is that right?
Yes, the stability and maybe not exactly the speed, but understanding that to be most efficient, then the calories have to be delivered the way the system has been designed.
Right.
I mean, we couldn't think about putting diesel fuel in a gasoline engine. So as human beings, we are relegated to rules that have been made detailing how the food we eat is going to be processed in the body. And if those rules aren't heeded, if we don't pay attention to those rules, then the system is breaking down meal after meal after meal after meal. And when it's breaking down, machinery falls into disrepair, the cells get drier, and then there's less and less of an ability for our cells to come back online and come back into, as one of my teachers says, right action. Come back to the middle and come back to stability. So, yes, I also say nutrition is a science. It's not about a diet. And when, especially related to your topic, when blood glucose is stable and even for 24 hours a day, cravings for sugar the honey, the cookies, the candy, the pie, the pasta, whatever is sweet to a person, it goes away. I mean, the difficulty with the cravings, and yes, I struggle with this until I learn what I'm telling you about. Um, I was just going from sugar hit to sugar hit,
Yeah, most of us.
not knowing.
Yeah.
And once I started applying this biochemistry in my own life, it's like, wow, I don't have to exercise so hard to maintain a weight. And guess what that exercise is doing? It's burning more calories.
Mm-hmm.
It's adding to the problem.
Yeah.
So it's finding a way to create evenness in the blood sugar, which has been defined and revealed, if you will, by the biochemists who've been studying this really since the mid 1800s.
So we've known about this for a long time, and yet it feels like it's like this revelation, even today, or it may not have happened today, it happened a few years ago for yourself. Why are we not taught this at a basic level at school instead of being bombarded with all these kind of false messages about calories and all, not that calories are false, but I mean, we grow up in most of us in this diet culture with a completely false knowledge, in air quotes, of
Correct.
human biology, biochemistry. Obviously, we don't all need a degree, I hope, in
Right.
biochemistry. You
Right.
just explained it.
Right.
Why are we
Right.
not given the right information?
That's a good question. I thought about this a lot, but I think it has to do with the fragmentation of our system in general, that information has been relegated to segments, especially in medicine, that as a doctor, I need to know everything about the kidney to be a nephrologist, or
Mm,
I need to know everything about the lungs to be a pulmonologist, or the heart to be a cardiologist. And even in basic science, some of the textbooks that I've read, the basic scientists or the electrical engineers or the plasma cosmologists describing how the universe functions. It's all separate disciplines, and nobody has brought it together um, to 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 an understanding that I, as a human being, are part and am part and parcel of the universe, and I am subject to natural laws that are affecting everything.
mm,
And so I think it has to do with a fragmentation of information. And then, there are many, many people, doctors, naturopaths, chiropractors, talking about specific fragments of the system. And going back to my chemistry, so once I understood the chemistry, then I could understand B and C and D. And so I wasn't having to memorize, do this for that, do this for that, do this for that, take this supplement for that, and you need more of this, and you need more of that, and this, until you get on 100 supplements every day. When the problem is the machines are broken.
mm,
It's like thinking that you can put windshield washer fluid in your car
mm.
and getting it to run again when there's no oil in the engine.
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe that's a dramatic example, but
But
um,
it's one that we can relate to and understand for sure. Yeah.
but yeah, being healthy does require a basic understanding of what I just said, the the glycemic index of foods, and that we need proteins, carbohydrates, and fats to meet the needs that our cells have so that we can continue to grow and make new cells every day. And then, importantly, get rid of the garbage that our cells have made.
Right. And what we don't need, if I understand right, is A, the wrong type of fuel, and B, an
Correct.
excess of the wrong type of fuel.
That's correct. Because this machinery is very fine-tuned in its needs. Primarily, in the chemistry terms, it's called substrate concentration. But what does this mean? It means how much of each food is presented can only be handled so much. If you overload the machinery with too many carbohydrates or too many protein calories or too many fat calories, the machine sees up and they stop. They get overloaded. They cannot process this.
Mm.
And yeah, that's where the excess comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And the diseases of excess are numerous. Um, Diabetes, heart disease, stroke, obesity, cognitive behavioral issues, digestive things. I mean, the excess is a reflection of the excesses of too many calories of any given food presented at any given time. And the cells have to deal with this or they will stop working.
Yeah.
And they have figured out a way, but it's not without a stress and a strain to the system.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you found in your life, similar to what I found in my life, is that cutting out sugar, refined
Right.
sugar especially, and in my case,
Correct.
refined flour as well, or just any powdered grains,
Right.
um, has eliminated this excess. And not only
Yes.
have I got more energy by not eating these so-called sources of energy, but I've got
Right.
long-lasting energy, no energy slumps, no crashes. I don't ever feel tired. It's annoying for other people. But
Right.
it's like
Right.
I got rid of that excess and things are
Right.
so much better now.
Right. Because my analogy is the eating those processed sugars and the calorie dense, because there's a lot of calories in those flours, the calorie dense dry foods, it floods the engine. It's like flooding your engine and then no gas, and then flooding your engine and then no gas and flooding your engine. It's a really difficult way. I mean, the energy is used up in just dealing with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the body can only process so much energy at any given time. It's not a limitless storehouse of energy, even
Right.
though some people have been led to believe that's the case. But the human body can only deal with and process and do so much at any given time.
Yeah.
And when
And
it's overloaded, it starts to break down.
right, exactly. And what I love about the human body and human biology and biochemistry is that biochemistry and human biology, they don't care what diet is in fashion or what fad is happening. The body will function or dysfunction whatever diet is in fashion. And so, really,
Correct.
I feel like we should just completely ignore the diets and just go with human biology and biochemistry.
Yes, I mean that's what I've been teaching people for the last 25 years. The
Yeah.
thing is, and this is just a function too of human energy deficit. People are so overwhelmed with information and things to do and places to go and people to see that the focus is not necessarily on what we're talking about, but doing other things and grab something quick and, move on, kicking the can down the road and moving to the next thing. What you just said and what I talk about, learning this does take some application of basic science
Yeah.
to learn, first of all, how many calories do you need every day to work?
Yeah. And where do
And
those
then
calories come
of those
from?
calories, how many protein calories do you need?
Yeah.
How many fat calories do you need? And how many carbohydrate calories do you need every day?
Yeah.
And then you have to learn um, kind of what that looks like on your plate. So you need to start experimenting with what that looks like. But it doesn't take that long. Once you've got, it's kind of like learning your multiplication tables
Yeah.
or, learning your addition subtraction tables.
Yeah. And what you
Once
learned
you
in med school, I think kids should learn in elementary school.
Yes, and I mean, what you and I are talking about, I did not learn in medical school.
Well, there you
I
go.
only learned it after the fact because biochemistry was all about memorization.
Uh-huh.
Memorize this step, that step, this step, this step was the fractionization of information and not the big picture
Mm-hmm.
of how does the body actually work and function.
Yeah,
There wasn't any practical application about how do I work with this in my medical practice?
yeah.
How do I help my patients understand this?
And I'm
But
happy.
I agree.
Yeah,
We should be teaching this in starting in kindergarten
totally.
with teaching kids what a protein and what a carbohydrate and what a fat is,
Yeah, as soon as they start to
and
eat solids, really.
and teach them well, and that requires then the parents to be educated.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, the parent the this and my parents certainly did the best they could
As did
raising
mine.
me,
Mm.
but they didn't know. They
No.
didn't have this complex biochemistry put together. And yeah, I mean they're you know, I'm talking in biochemical terms, but I'm also trying to put it into practical, understandable words. And it does require sitting down and figuring out how much protein I need every day instead of thinking, okay, well, I need high protein, and so I'm going to eat peanut butter.
Mm. I think it's important for us to just have a basic understanding, and it doesn't take 3 years, 4 years at med school. Basic
Correct.
understanding, as you were saying, of biology, chemistry, and to just have it explained in terms that are clear so that this we can take with us throughout our adult life so that we don't get
Right.
all like confused with all the contradictory messages from the diet culture.
Right. And certainly there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
But I guess I'll leave with this one thought. So we all know that the most important thing that we need to live is breath. You know, without breath, there isn't life. The next most important thing that we need is water. Yeah, we can go for maybe 2 minutes without oxygen or air. We can go maybe 3 days at the most without water. But depending, we can go 30 to 60 days without food.
mm,
So the most important counterbalance to all of this, and the most important thing to know about how the body works, is that energy is produced by water. And it's water that generates the power that runs us. Water generates hydroelectric power, and that's what's running us. So drinking water throughout the day is of utmost importance. And then eliminating beverages that are dehydrating,
yeah,
because fundamentally eating food is dehydrating. So we want to maintain power without dehydration. And how we do that is by drinking water.
yeah,
And then the food, and then the food falls into place. We can't have food first and then water. Water is kind of relegated. It's the forgotten stepchild.
yeah.
Nobody talks about water.
First water, then food. Yeah,
Correct.
to get the
Exactly.
energy we need. Well, thank
Correct.
you, Dr. Wanek. This has been really fascinating. And thank you so much for explaining it in clear terms. Very, very interesting, fascinating.
Right.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. Just a little bit of knowledge about human biology, which includes biochemistry, can make a huge difference in your everyday life and in our understanding not just of food and what it does inside of our bodies, but of cravings and how we can eat to get rid of cravings rather than feeding them. And yes, this is definitely easier said than done, which is exactly why I created the Freedom from Cravings Formula program. Because I created this program specifically to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself, and so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life when you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can talk directly to me on a free clarity call at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on Program at the top. You'll also find the link to talk with me with the show notes together with this episode. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak to you soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.